From Universal Studios, Florida, it's WMAC Masters.
They're the world's greatest martial artists competing for the ultimate prize. Olympus, The Machine, Superstar, Red Dragon, Great Wolf, Tiger Claw, Yin Yang Man, Tsunami, Star Warrior, Turbo. Their quest, reach full dragon belt, then go for the Dragon Star itself. The World Martial Arts Council presents WMAC Masters.
Hey all, Dre from the future here to give a couple of quick notes. Today's awesome nerd episode is on WMAC Masters. That's short for World Martial Arts Council. A short-lived TV show that attempted to do a WWE-style show, but with martial arts and a Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat-like level, courtesy of Universal Studios. Don't worry, we'll talk about it a lot more later. Two quick notes. First, the book Quest for the Dragon Star, An Oral History of WMAC Masters by Christopher Landis is amazing and was the genesis of this episode. Logan Trent mentioned that it existed to me and I had to read it, and then I told Logan and Jeff I had to podcast about it, and Logan agreed, so hence that's why the show is here. Also, if you hear me mention any behind-the-scenes stuff or mention the book with Logan, that is 100% what I am referencing. Second, there are a ton of characters on this show. As mentioned, similar to wrestling, the martial artists all have like a gimmick or a shtick, so they're all real people, but then they're kind of playing characters. It's named on themselves. Don't worry, we'll get into it. In this case, though, it's basically just a code name and a uniform, and we talk a lot about many of them in this show, but I figured before we get going, I'll just do a quick rundown of each character, their name, some of their stats, just so you know who we are talking about when we go on the show. This list, for what it is worth, is ordered by height. So we have the Machine, who is a 6'4", 216-pound kickboxer. He dresses up like a cyborg with the backstory that like broke his arm and leg and has a big bow staff. He is amazing, and his signature move is the switch change axe kick. Next, we have Tracer, who is 6'4". He is dressed like a big army man. His art is Kodokan. He claims he is the master of all arts, and his name, only character on the show that is not actually named after himself. It's an anagram, so, All right. Next, we have Tarantula. She is 6'3", was a master of Taekwondo, in real life a gold medal martial artist in the 1988 games. She only appears in flashbacks, though we discuss why on the show. Next, we have Tiger Claw, 6 foot even, 211 pounds. He is a master of Shorin Ryu, or karate, and he is really good friends with Great Wolf. His signature move is the hook round kick. We give him a lot of time on the show, so don't you worry. Next, we have Wizard, who is 6'11", 160 pounds. He is a master of Kung Fu. His signature move is Shaolin Fury, and in show only, one of the few characters that's not like real life based, he is brothers with Warlock. We'll get to Warlock in a second, but as I mentioned, unlike some other characters who are actually related in real life, this is story only. Next up is Great Wolf, who comes in at 5'10", 184 pounds. His name is based on his Native American name, so that's how it translates into Great Wolf. That's kind of cool. He is a master of karate. His signature move is the windmill. He is dressed very stereotypically Native American, but good news, as we'll discuss in the show, he actually is Native American, and also in show and real life, he is good friends with Tiger Claw. Next up, we come to Red Dragon, also coming in at 5'10", 174 pounds, a master of karate, or karate. So that pronunciation is going to be terrible for me if I keep saying it that way, but I'll just say karate. His dad actually has a school, which is the Red Dragon School of Karate, which is how he gets his name. And he is dressed just like Ken from Street Fighter. He just has dark hair. Coming in at 5'10", 169 pounds, we have Turbo, who is a master of Shorin Ryu Karate. He has a vest. He's a tough guy. His signature move is the double spin and strike. Next up, we have Star Warrior, who is coming in at 5'9", 171 pounds. He is Superstar's brother. He also has like a star gimmick, kind of, not an amazing costume, just a normal guy with like a star on his chest. He is a master of Kung Fu and Wushu, and his special move, according to the Chiron that pops up before his fights, is the double tornado. Before I get going, I'll stress that despite the fact that they have these special moves, I think it's maybe what you see him doing like in animation before, they're not a big thing in the show. It's not like Street Fighter or something. Coming in at 5'8", we have Tsunami, who is 144 pounds. He is a master of Kung Fu. His name is Bruce Lee inspired Be Like Water. His costume, as described on 1-900 Hot Dog, looks kind of like an ocean spray can. It's supposed to look like a tsunami wave. Looks like an ocean spray thing, but he is a cool guy. Okay, next up is Panther, who is really cool. He kind of has a Panther gimmick going. He actually did name himself after Black Panther as a kid. Has funny-looking contact lenses in the show. Really cool. 5'8", 165 pounds. Master of Wushu. Double sidekick. Next up, we have Superstar. Think of Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat, and guess what? That's who it is. He is 5'8", 163 pounds. His signature move is the pumping sidekick. No copyright infringement. He is a master of Kung Fu. Looks just like Liu Kang in this show and the game, so that's kind of funny. He is Star Warrior's brother, and his name in Korean actually means superstar. So that's appropriate. Next up, we have Warlock, who is 5'7", 144 pounds. Master of Kung Fu. Signature move is a spinning sidekick, and he is dressed just like the Cookie Crisp Wizard. Don't worry, we will talk him a ton in the show. As mentioned, in show lore only, he is brothers with Wizard. There's so many characters on this show, but we'll get through them all. Next up, one of my favorite, Yin Yang Man. 5'7", 145 pounds, master of Wushu. His backstory is he liked to draw yin yang symbols. Not a great backstory, but they really lean into it. In real life, he actually is one-eyed, so on the show, he has an eye patch. He has a glass eye with a yin-yang symbol. He wears a cape with a yin-yang symbol. One of my absolute favorite characters, Richard Brandon, R.I.P. We lost him too soon, and if I didn't say it, his signature move is the butterfly kick. Now, with heights, we're going to start getting into the women's division. So coming in at 5'7" is Princess. She is, as mentioned, 5'7", 124 pounds, master of Wushu. She just has kind of like a traditional Chinese dress on. It's, the women's division is not great. We'll talk in the show about it. Her special move is the jumping outside kick. Next up, we have Kid Carmichael. He is 5'6", 133 pounds, master of Wushu. Just has like a purple suit on, nothing special. They were supposed to kind of just have new people come in and out of the show. So they didn't really flesh out his character too much. His special move is the 540-degree kick. Next up, we have Cyclone, who is 5'4", 125 pounds, master of karate. Unlike the Wikipedia article, he is not Black Widow's brother. His signature move is a cyclone kick, which I approve of, and he is dressed just in a Ryu costume. Also coming in at 5'4" is Bam. He gets his name because he yells Bam. He's got a hair braid and then a weapon made of his hair braid, which is something. We talked about it on the show. He is a master of Wushu. His signature move is the Bam Slam. All right. More women division. We have Lady Lightning. She is 5'4", 118 pounds, a master of Kenpo. Think of 1970s Captain Marvel, and that's kind of her get-up. Also, you just have to look up her hair online. Just trust me, it's worth it. Her signature move is the axe kick. Sticking in the women's division, Baby Doll. In show, she is named because that's what her dad called her. We talk about the women's division, don't worry. She is 5'4", 118 pounds, master of kickboxing with the slingshot kick. She's just dressed up like a kickboxer. Nothing special. Next up, also 5'4", Chameleon. According to her personal website, she is 100 pounds flat. I'm not sure in show. I never saw a Chiron of her. We discussed that. She is a master of Kung Fu. And her gimmick, by the way, is she kind of has a costume that changes colors. Kind of looks like Cammy's from Street Fighter. And has a pet iguana. Her signature move is the scorpion kick. Then, coming in at 5 foot flat, we have Mouse in the women's division. 100 pounds. She is a master of Tang Soo Do. Her name apparently comes from the high-pitched kiage she said when she was younger. And she has the Hawkeye kick. We don't see much of Mouse. Last character who is fascinating is Black Widow. We do not have stats on her height and weight. We actually never see her fight, and according to the book, the oral history that I mentioned above, she may not exist. She is impossible to track down. Do not listen to Wikipedia, which says that she is the brother of Cyclone in real life. That is not true. Allegedly, she is a master of Hapkido with the whirlwind quick, but who knows? All right. That is a ton of backstory on all of the characters. You should now be able to know who we are talking about. On with the show.
From Universal Studios, Florida, it's WMAC Masters.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another glorious episode of Nerd with Dre and Jeff. I am the second part of that. I'm Jeff, and so therefore that would make you.
I think between the two of us, Jeff, I think I am the superstar to your star warrior, which means we're joined by, I hate to do this, but I don't feel bad, Logan. We are joined by our own, don't call me Tracy Tracer, Logan Trent.
I think if anyone is Tracy Tracer, it is Jeff, because I was just going to say, Jeff, if you don't cosplay as Tracer at some point, I would be very disappointed.
Oh, please let Jeff know in the comments.
Everyone would be like, what are you, gender bent Cammy from Street Fighter 2? And I'd be like,
are you some kind of weird guardian angel thing? Is that what you're going for?
Are you Kurgan from the WWE circa 1998?
Oh, man.
I love this. All right. So, by the way, Jeff, what are we talking?
Sorry, I'm chewing up on a. You can hear it like a cough drop right now.
Well, Jeff is chewing on that. I have one question that I want you to think deeply about, both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready to live your life by the code of the Dragon Star?
Never, never, not at all. And there's several reasons for that, not the least of which being the living your life by the code of the Dragon Star as being apparently the worst actor who has ever lived. We are covering WMAC Masters. This is the second part of our season on unfortunate martial arts. Now, this is the reason we're doing this. Tis the reason for the season. You're like the Jesus of Christmas of nerd, Logan.
I would like to say that I agreed to this before I found out the theme of this season, and I disagree greatly with unfortunate. We are fortunate to be blessed with this show.
It's something. It is something. So,
and for the rest of the show, I would appreciate if you call me by my code name, Sand Viper.
That is our
Viper Strike.
That would be what you would be called with this show. This oddly progressive and still somehow incredibly dated and racist show. Yep.
I will add that clearly between season 1 and season 2, the producers were like, we got to get more fucking white people on this show. Like, it's so very obvious when you see the people that are coming in the influx of the second season. You're just like, oh, they really amped up the white people quotient on this one. I guess they weren't stoked on that.
Suffers a little from that because there is just entirely too much Tiger Claw.
Oh, okay. Man. All right. So basically, we're covering WMAC Masters. For those of you that didn't exist in the most specific time, this might be the most obscure thing we've ever covered. WMAC Masters was a early to mid 90s 2-season martial arts stunt spectacular formatted as a WWE style narrative, but it is all choreographed stunts, meaning the action aspects get pretty old pretty quick, unless you're really high for season 2, which I did most of. And I was like, this show's pretty great, actually.
So Jeff brings up something hugely important about this show, because it's 1995, 1996. But as we'll discover in the lore, this show was canceled prematurely, so it missed syndication. So unlike a lot of nostalgic properties,
only like 40 episodes.
They said they needed 3 seasons to hit syndication, is what they said in the book. So it missed syndication, and as a result, basically you saw this show at a certain point in life, and it's crystallized in your memory, which I'm guessing Logan and I both appeal to, or you maybe caught it later, ironically, like the entire thing is uploaded to YouTube with absolutely no breaks, which is fantastic.
I would have preferred the breaks.
You would have preferred the breaks.
I would have loved some 1995 commercials while I was, because spoiler alert, I've been a busy bee the past couple of weeks. And so I started watching, I've been doing some research, but I started watching the episodes to have it fresh yesterday. I watched all of season 1 and half of season 2 yesterday.
Wait, you haven't gotten through season 2? Do you know how it ends?
Logan has informed me, because I got the final. I only haven't seen the final episode.
He got to the legal, and I think this is admissible in court, case that Olympus presented with his research about how the Dragon Star was stolen. Wait, so you guys both did research on this. I have one question because it's been bugging me for a while. Where was this filmed?
Universal Studios, Florida. I mean,
where the movies are made. Is that what they say?
I'm saying it because they say literally every 5 minutes, and that location at Universal Studios, Florida.
What's really funny is if you've ever been on a Universal tour, you will recognize a very famous scene as being just part of the Universal tour, which is the earthquake scene. That scene is literally just because there is a part where I believe it's
Superstar versus the Machine.
Superstar versus the Machine. And they get flooded and there's an earthquake. And it's literally just the set of the earthquake part of the Universal Studios.
And in the show, they present it as a real earthquake, and they show people running for cover, and then they have the camera shaking and everything. They show the World Martial Arts Council starting to shake too. And everyone's
I've got to shout this out. I always go behind the curtain. So we're in season 8 of Nerd. I am amazed that Jeff found a through line, because I started with this. I said, Jeff, I want to do WMAC Masters. It is Logan's fault, kind of, in that Logan told me in one of the Discord chats we're in, either Gamefully Unemployed or Unpopular Opinion, both great Patreons. Go sign up. You could be in the Discords. Jeff and Logan both make regular appearances in both. And Logan was like, did you know there is a 400-page book on the oral history of WMAC Masters? And I was like, Logan, I have to buy that book. And if you want, I will buy you that book and we need to podcast on it. And you were like, I am down. And I was like, Jeff, Logan said he's down. Are you down? And Jeff was like, I hate you so much, Dre. I hate you so much. You have me. I have the audio recording of Jeff saying he's down for everything week after week on Nerd, or month after month. And I'm like, Jeff, this is admissible in court. Herb Perez, my lawyer, says it. Jeff came along for the ride.
It's one of those things where, yeah, when it was like, we're doing WMAC Masters with Logan, and my immediate thought was just like, you guys are fucking with me. Like, you two have gotten together to fuck with me. And that's fine. That's good. And now I know that, and we said this was something that I wasn't aware of, but seeing as how I just did an episode of We Just Watched with Sean Baby, that he did a 3-part article about it.
Podcast.
If Sean Baby had not written about it, I would be shocked.
Yeah. It's a podcast on 1-900 Hot Dog.
On 1-900 Hot Dog, if you need more, if you get to the end of this amazing episode we're about to do, I'm calling our shot early, and you're like, I really need episode by episode breakdowns, I can pitch that to you, Jeff. Dave and Jeff watch WMAC Masters while Tom's away.
No, please don't do that.
If Sean Baby was a little older, I feel like he would have been on WMAC Masters.
Oh, that'd be
some
cool.
capacity, or writing for it or something.
He would have been Rick.
Let me throw these out to you, by the way. So over at 1-900 Hot Dog with Sean Baby and Brockway, and Jeff and Sean Baby were just on an amazing episode of Wolverine and Deadpool. We just got crossovers on crossovers here, Jeff.
Yeah.
Here are the episodes they did, 3-parter. They did this with Merritt K, and they did an episode on Ladies Night.
Mm-hmm.
They did an episode on The Joke's on You. And I didn't tell Jeff he had to watch the whole series. I'm impressed by that. I told you, Jeff, I was like, me and Logan got this. As long as you're aware of the show, you catch some clips, you do some research, you're good. But Jeff is the consummate professional. I was like, I'm going to watch this, Dre. The one episode I said was mandatory, and this goes to everybody listening to this episode, is A Man Can Dream. So there is a 1-900 Hot Dog episode, 90 minutes on a 20-minute show, what I argue is a must-watch if we tickle your fancy at all with WMAC Masters. So sorry, Jeff, I'm going to make you take a step back. Can you do the 10,000-foot view of the show, and then I'll recap season 1 and season 2, and then we can go.
WMAC Masters is a system in which the World Martial Arts Council has a rocking tournament where you basically compete against each other for emblems of the people that you can and cannot beat. You each get little championship belts, and when you get a victory over a person, you get their emblem. You acquire 10 emblems, then you can go for like the championship. It's not like a championship title belt where it exchanges hands as far as the emblems go. When you get the emblems, you get them. So it's like you can lose to a person and win to a person, and you'll both have the other person's emblem. The goal is to be like seated in the championship throne by being the best. And they do so by fighting each other and ninjas. But the fighting is clearly choreographed, sometimes better than others. They occasionally remember that they have women on the show, which is really interesting. The other part is it is what I might refer to as the most poorly acted show I have ever seen, and I have watched California Dreams.
I would like to point out this show does have an issue with the representation of women in terms of just giving them screen time and stuff. It is at least a million times better than, because you were making the comparison earlier, pro wrestling of the exact same era. So
yeah, but American Gladiators of the exact same era, and it's
yes,
because this is clearly they're trying to do WWE meets American Gladiators. That's sort of the energy that they're bringing.
If Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat was WWE.
Yeah. The pitch was martial arts with WWE. Al Khan, I think I'm saying his name right, who was like a big head honcho who had background with Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, was even friends with Vince McMahon, and then Norman, I'm going to mess up his last name, I do have it in the script,
Osborne.
but Norman, the big producer on it, was also had Pokemon background. So these are people looking for kids. Like they basically said, we want to go after the kids market, the Pokemon market. We want to do WWE. We want to do action figures. And they even got initially funding from Bandai, who did Power Rangers.
Pretty big deal.
So I mean,
yeah. And on top of that too, Bandai being really great. And you can see that there is one scene that is the most blatantly toyetic scene that I have ever seen in television. It's as bad as Batman showing up in a new, very specific costume where they're like, here's my Arctic attack costume. There's a scene where I forget who it is.
Olympus
brings out
the disc launcher.
Disc crossbow that he designed himself. And I'm like, that's just a toy you guys are about to sell for Christmas.
Olympus takes part in two of the most embarrassing scenes on this show. That is the second one. But yes, this disc launcher, he makes this huge deal about how he invented this dangerous weapon. And it's just like a Nerf disc launcher.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so goddamn funny.
And they start adding special effects, like making it make things blow up and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I want to get that.
After he does that, there's immediately a backstage scene where he's like, hey, look at this. And it goes off and it just hits Chameleon in the arm.
Chameleon with her trusty iguana.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So like we pull back and yeah, it's funny. And they're like, we want to make it like Mortal Kombat. They literally have Liu Kang as like one of their main characters.
The video game Liu Kang.
Yeah, video. Yeah, the actor who played Liu Kang in the original Mortal Kombat video game, Ho Sung Pak, and Shang Tsung, I believe.
Sorry, but we'll probably get into it. Apparently he played them in part 1 and 2, and then he and some other actors sued Midway because of like royalty stuff, which is why he's not in 3, and I think that prevented him from trying out for Liu Kang in the movie.
Let me say, Robin Shou is a good actor that knows martial arts. He's not a martial artist trying to act. And that actually is one of the parts that makes this really uncomfortable. Is this show, the stunt parts are cool, but I do have to say, like, it gets old. It gets old. It's like watching Power Rangers. Oh, they're getting their asses kicked. Oh, they got in the Voltron part. After a while, you're like, yeah, we know what's going to happen. Right. Yeah. I'm not an amnesiac. I know what's going to happen.
Love the actors did stunts for Power Rangers, and Wizard, I think, became a Power Ranger.
Also,
and Chris Casamassa.
Casamassa.
He was Scorpion in the Mortal Kombat movie, as well as in the TV show.
And Akeem Halstead gets his neck broke, but
he gets his soul sucked.
Oh wait, soul sucked. Yes,
it could be both. But to Jeff's point on this was supposed to be WWE for kids with martial arts. Also, to Jeff's point, what makes this really weird is they got real martial artists, and the two crops they went for were competitive martial artists. They like looked around. So, for instance, Herb Perez, aka Olympus, is a 1992 gold medalist in Taekwondo.
Oh, they pushed a lot of shit out of that on that show in the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the rest, oh my God.
They're like, but can he finally get his dream fulfilled of being the WMAC champion? And I don't know if you mentioned the gold medal earlier, but that is the goal of everybody who's ever done that martial art since 1900.
But, Shannon Lee did say that the highest prize was when he won the Dragon Star. So.
I thought his highest prize was when he got his gold medal back from the punk kid who stole it.
No, that's what he said is highest.
I wonder if you see him, does he have his law degree and the gold medal and then the Dragon Star on his wall displayed equally?
I gotta be honest. I bet that dude fucked a lot in the 90s.
Oh, 100%.
That's the
he was an Olympian the 90s.
That's the most fuckable man, right? That's the most fuckable man. Because it's just, yeah. I got this gold medal for Taekwondo, but did you also know that I'm a lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
And on TV.
Man. And on WMAC Masters. Don't forget that.
But yes,
they had a radio show that played a song about Quest for the Dragon Star.
Oh, buddy.
So that is the most embarrassing thing on the show.
So the championship, quote, title, the belts that you would think is actually, it's called the Dragon Star. It is made of all of the glorious things that you can get at Hobby Lobby.
Solid gold.
Together. It is a golden star
that looks like a dragon.
It looks like a
thing. It's well named.
Crap. It's so funny. God,
it looks like a weapon that you would find somebody selling at like a shady Comic Con booth, like a really weird weeb booth.
Okay, but what I was going to say, that's what makes this weird, though, is they have real martial artists of two camps. Competitive martial artists, that's, people that do demonstrations and also spar, depending on if they have eyes or not. True story. And then you also have stunt people who are also usually highly accomplished, stunt people for martial arts. So they are also going to be highly accomplished martial artists. But the subtle difference will be is you have some people in the show that are not actors, and it shows.
Yeah,
and you have some people.
That's everyone.
Well, you have some people that are stunt people that are better, but when we're talking tiers of actors, it's not great, right? You're not doing like established actor versus stunt person. You are like the level is between stunt person and professional fighter who got.
I will say that the worst actor overall, though, isn't any of the masters. It's in the first episode where they're talking about how a superstar got protected by his brother or whatever. There's a head bad guy with a group of toughs.
Oh yeah,
literally one of the worst actors I have ever seen.
But
he's worse than any of the masters.
So here's where this gets even worse. Sorry, to the same point. In this show, the show is WWE-ish, so we got behind the scenes and choreographed fights.
Yeah, their locker room is literally like an arena gym.
Yeah. It is portrayed. This is such a wild show if you've never seen it, especially since it has a really weird transition between season 1 and season 2. But it is basically played as if we are watching a half hour of a sports show of a martial arts competition that is like the highest level. It's supposed to be ESPN-ish. And in fact, the announcer for season 1 is Shannon Lee, who going to make you feel sad, Jeff, brought some gravitas to the show because her dad's name is so highly regarded in martial arts that getting her to sign on to the show kind of did help the show and get some of the other people, some of the professional martial artists and stunt people to join the show. So we watch a competition each episode where they're vying for the Dragon Star via, as Jeff already kind of alluded to, one of the most convoluted systems ever. It is wonderful. But to make it even wilder, we also get flashbacks and stories about other stuff that,
every flashback is just the worst movie you've ever seen. If you had a friend that's, hey, I made a movie, can you watch it with me? I've got all these local people, and you're like, oh, you went to local actors? Like, no, that's the whole great part. I only got my friends to do it. And then you watch it and you're like, hey man, this is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Like,
with the exception of Chris Casamassa romancing an astronaut, which is one of the greatest love stories.
That is in A Man Can Dream.
That is funny. That is funny. It's one of the worst acted. It's so, but they're all bad.
Wait, we keep saying that WWE is their comp, and when we say WWE, we're talking about pre-Stone Cold WWE,
WWF. We're
not
talking WWF.
WWF, not like Attitude Era, like the weird goofy shit with like
The
where you
the
had a
new
guy who just
generation.
happened to be a barber that used garden shears.
It's the new generation. It's a
Yeah.
clown, but not even an evil clown. He's just a nice clown, and it's
Yeah.
Crush looking like a bottle of Sunny D and all that. Yeah, it's really really bad.
But we're trying to do a real show while also having these, as Jeff
Mhm.
Jeff has described them accurately, like your friend made movies, and that's actually the issue. A lot of the extra actors they will use in these flashbacks are stunt coordinators and people related to the show. So that's what makes it even funnier is like Logan, you're like, that guy is a horrible actor. His acting performance in that scene was not great, and he was probably not given a lot of time. I'm going to give a lot of credit to, because this show was shoestring, right? So it's like, you already don't have trained actors, and now you're going to have them like not have a lot of takes. Fantastic idea. He's like a huge name in stunts. Like he's got a, giant IMDb. So
I'm not making fun of anybody's abilities because, even with just the repetitive stuff, they're really good at their martial arts stuff.
Yeah, sure.
It's just bad acting. And it's disappointing because the dialogue is so good that you would think it would be better if they had like an actual actor delivering it. Like
The
the
dialogue's
episode
also
is,
not
I
that
think it won an Emmy, right? For original story.
I don't know what we're going to do with this, Jeff, because now it's almost like having Star Warrior and Superstar, where it's like the same style and a lot of the same stuff. Like normally the sarcastic snark is my thing, and now Logan's doing it. So I think we need to go on top of like a giant column and kick each other off to see who gets to be the snarker of the show.
So I'm gonna do a quick little breakdown of the structure of the show, because
I'm
we're
excited.
actually getting ahead of ourselves a little bit because we're talking about like the narratives and the scripts and stuff. But what you guys came here is to hear about the action. So like 80% of all the episodes go pretty much the exact same way, which there are these matches between two people that they have to fight ninjas and each other. And they get these like health bars.
Yeah.
Like in a video game. And whoever wins that match. So they'll like ninjas come out, and the ninjas are basically students of the WMAC Academy. So they're not like actual evil ninjas. They're just people that are there to test you.
Trainees.
This happens twice per episode. The two people that won then face off in the Battle Dome. And the Battle Dome is funny because they tell you that it's like an electrified fence dome.
And that the ninja clothing has special coating to not activate.
They tell you a lot about that at 1-900 Hot Dog. They go in depth about how this show wants you to know, don't worry, there is a reason the ninjas can crawl over this dome and slip underneath it through like various, trap doors. They let you know. They push the shit out of that. And it's very funny. Some would say it's the most funny aspect of it. It's a hell of a sell, but it's a dome and it's electrified with ninjas. How is that not awesome, Jeff? And so they compete 1-to-1, then ninjas are added. And then like basically if a person is knocked into the wall, the other person gets a point. Winner gets the emblem, right? That's kind of how that goes. That's the majority of that. That's the majority of the episodes. There are other episodes which are kind of like these weird super challenge gauntlets where they have to get points on how many ninjas' asses they kick. And the top 4 scorers go into a 4-man battle dome. And then the same shit happens. But they can win.
Then you get
3 key symbols, right? Or Kai symbols. Is that what they call it? Key symbols, yeah. Key symbols. And so that's generally that. And then you get your, every once in a while, every like maybe 4 episodes or so, you get a championship match.
You could tell when they were trying to go for a championship match because they would just add one of those 4-person ones because they're like, this fucking guy's at 7. Let's just get him to 10.
No, let's get that piece of shit out of here.
Well, by the way, so there's so much that gets really weird because the show itself, to kind of keep on the structure of the other thing, the show itself, all of these people are real people that have really competed at some level. And some at the highest level
outfits. Yeah,
they're all using their real names except for
all of them
Tracer.
except Tracer, who shows up in season 2. And oh boy, I'm looking forward to season 2. Use their real names, and then they are given a persona that is in some way related to them. Sometimes it's very lazy, like Star Warrior. It's because his name in Korean almost translates to that.
Yin Yang Man might be my favorite name because it's it has the least amount of effort I've ever seen put into anything. Like, this is the most low effort anything that I've ever seen in the entire. We did an episode on Masters of Terrascasi, which is a bad game, and this has less effort.
Yin Yang Man might have had the screen cap that made me laugh the hardest, because I think I said both to you, where he's, yeah, I used my art to pay my way through college, and it's just a drawing of a yin yang with a snake, and it's incredible.
According to the Wikipedia, that may or may not be true. I'm also not, it's Wikipedia, so maybe someone watched the show and put it, because that's the other part, is this show does the wrestling thing of blurring the line between reality and fiction, because they will pull a lot from individuals' real world to get into the show, and then season 2 just goes off the rails when they make a fake storyline.
So in that case, was Chris Sassafras's
he definitely
wife
had sex
or
with an
partner
astronaut.
actually the hottest astronaut I've ever seen?
We don't know if they get together, but it could happen, Jeff.
I will say this, by the way, and I said this in the group chat with Logan, is like, that woman was 2000s hot in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, that woman transcended, like some people you see and they're hot, and if you saw them now, like someone like a Morgan Fairchild, right? If you saw Morgan Fairchild at any point in time, you'd be like, she is modern hot. She is hot right here, right now, where some people are definitely hot for their time, and they have the big frizzy hair or whatever. You see like a sex symbol from the 80s with this big frizzed out thing, and you're like, that's not going to hold up today. This lady, when I saw this astronaut, I'm like, this must be where all the budget went, was to get this woman on the show.
It is odd. Her IMDb ends after that, and she does do infomercial stuff, I guess. So it's, you never can tell success. We will talk about that episode.
I was amazed that they spent the money, because Chris Cosmasa, he's on the beach and he sees her, run by, and then they have this little romantic montage and stuff. I was amazed that they spent the money for "Fly Me to the Moon." They paid the rights to that song.
I doubt they did.
Maybe they just did it and said they're not going to come after us.
This seems like it seems like that scene was filmed on a Magnavox handheld that runs on C batteries. It does seem
no scene takes place outside of Orlando or Universal Studios, Florida,
except for that one beach scene was most of their budget.
But then the other thing you're saying, Jeff, is that this is like a real fight, that's kind of portrayed in that. And we're kind of viewing it as if we're watching a wrestling show where we're tuning in every week. But then, as Logan mentioned, and you mentioned, Jeff, where this goes off the freaking rails is that the rules for how you achieve key symbols are arbitrary, and they change just between episodes. Red Dragon starts with 6, and the next time we see him, he's at 8. And we have these 3-person things that say it. At one point, they tell us in an episode that Red Dragon 18 months ago was misscored, and so they took the key symbol back. And the producer, Norman, says that he wanted to give the impression that this universe is bigger.
Well, that's why they started with Champion Turbo.
Yeah, Turbo was already champion, and he had already defended the title, and everyone else was in the middle of being it didn't start from scratch. It's if you came it's if you decided to be a Bears fan or a Red Sox fan, and you just came in the middle of a season. You have all that history to go back through.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where Turbo is an interesting design too, because
You mean mom's boyfriend who buys you smokes? He looks like the sleaziest fucking.
He looks like
someone
Dan
Lorenzo
Lansing.
Lamas would have killed on Renegade.
Yeah, he very much has. He definitely. They were we need somebody to be like the Crow, but we get face makeup, and they're like, well, this guy kind of has a Danzig vibe. He doesn't like wearing shirts already. That's cool. Looks like he failed. It looks like he started a cult and failed.
Oh man, I kind of want to join the Turbo cults.
He looks like a guy who would have been a recurring just street villain in a beat 'em up. You would see Cody or Mike Hager fucking this guy up numerous times in Final Fight.
If you put just a leather jacket on his WMAC costume, right there, you're looking at Streets of Rage 3rd level boss. But so they also have these very cheesy Universal Studios sets that they fight on, which is very funny. There's one called Mayan Mystery there, and it's just delightful. It's just.
Do you want to know one funny thing I know you've got to get a kick out of as a fighter, Jeff? One of the sets that they fight on, because they're all universal things that are either used as is, as we'll get to, or repurposed. And that's a huge reason they were able to do that, because it is actually very expensive for like sets and stuff. So to have pre-made sets you can use is great, but then you're also confined by what you've got. One of the sets is the King Kong set. Obviously, King Kong is not in the fight, although God, I wish he was. I wish they were just like King Kong attack in the middle of the fight. But they were saying when they were doing choreographed fights on that, it would be awesome because they'd look up and they'd be able to see the King Kong torso. So that was going to work for some of these people, is looking up, seeing King Kong.
Yeah. I mean, it's clear. What I also like is that they do not pretend to hide that they're filming at Universal Studios.
They literally
like,
say
that looks like a fake
minutes.
set. You'd be like, we're at Universal Studios.
Every 5 minutes, there's a thing saying Universal Studios where you could ride the movies. And it's just, that's how they come back from commercial breaks. That's how they start the show. That's how they end the show, is with that. Yeah.
Going to assume that's how they were able to
afford anything.
Filming in those spaces.
So you were talking about Turbo's look, but also funny is how many, because again, we mentioned the connection to fighting games, how many are just as close as we can legally get to another video game character. Chris Casamassa is just Ken, but with sleeves. And Superstar, who played Liu Kang in the video game, is just Liu Kang.
Yeah, in a different outfit.
Yeah, that's a slightly different outfit.
Great Wolf is the Native American master that you get in every martial arts thing. You know,
T-Hawk. He's 100% T-Hawk. Yeah.
T-Hawk.
He would have been better than T-Hawk in the Street Fighter movie. You know,
Panther exists for 2 episodes.
Panther Panther. I don't know if you noticed this, and I never noticed it until now, but his key symbol is like 95% of the Thundercats.
Thundercats. Yep.
I think the Yin Yang Man might be the dumbest everything.
I think I said in the chat, I just wish there was a cool S guy.
Yeah.
Like it was just the scribble down. Yeah.
Cool S man.
I think Dre was going to tell us about the unfortunate fate of Eric Betts, the Panther.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying. Okay. So we've kind of got the format. We'll talk more season 2, but I'll just give the top level, which is season 1 does kind of what we say. It's this martial arts show with weirdly bad, like think of a Hallmark movie, make it bad, make it with bad actors, and then have it after school special in the middle of these fights that are pretty, they're decently choreographed. But to Jeff's point, you are limited in what you can do with choreographed fights that are trying to do a lot. They're real people. That's season 1 is a bunch of these people fighting for it. Season 2, we get a soap opera drama with a masked ninja and intrigue, and we'll get to that. But what really makes this show rough is season 1, they kind of got the go ahead. Bandai was like, we'll do it. They got Universal Studios to hop on, and Universal Studios ponied up a lot of money. It was really nice to them, which is, of course, why they are nice back. They had plans, Jeff. They had plans to mix with martial arts studios at the time, because remember in the 90s it was big. They were like, we will franchise. We will get people to say they are a WMA school affiliated school, and they'll pay us money. It'll help. They advertised for that on the show, and that never happened.
No,
that season
it didn't happen.
Yeah,
of course it didn't. Because I know the thing, it's clear and obvious choreography, and in the the big difference, the clear and obvious difference that WMAC Masters misses, that WWF at the time and American Gladiators very specifically do, is people get hit in those other things. Like when you punch somebody, like working stiff or whatever, but like you can't fake a power bomb, you know, like it still goes down, and you can find ways to make it look more impressive and not get permanently injured. These fights are so clearly choreographed, and some camera shots just miss hits. And you see it right there, that what you're advertising is essentially a dance school with kicking.
It's 2 years too late for the level of storytelling they're trying to tell. So like we were saying, like it's very much WWF era. This was 96 when WWF was starting to become the Attitude Era. And like just general tastes, probably they were going for too young of an audience at a time where they probably should have go in for teens, which they could have done with maybe a little more adult storytelling. I'm not saying it had to be like, oh, they're ripping each other's hearts out or stuff, but it's very much the first season is now you know, and knowing is half the battle type of storytelling.
Oh, very much, yeah.
I mean, you'd know better, Jeff, about like regulations and stuff, but this show does have the messages at the end of each episode. And I don't know if there were still regulations about shows with violence having to do that, or if they just did that to stay in the vein of G.I. Joe and stuff.
I don't know. I feel like it's a way to get the toy companies involved, because toy companies had been working that way for over 10 years at this point in time.
Makes sense.
That they were probably just, all right, well, we'll do it, but you have to have your like fighting isn't right if our name is going to be on it.
To that point, season 1 versus season 2, I've explained the back. Season 2 has a lot of issues. One is they had partnered with Bandai. And Logan, you noticed that like running into the wrong era. Jeff, we actually did an episode on this, Star Wars Powers of the Force Line 2.
Yeah.
So their plan for this was we are going to release individualized action figures, right? Each character gets an action figure, and we will go that way. And that's why Bandai hopped on board initially. But Bandai, I hope I'm saying it right. I'll say it like 40 different ways over the show and pick your favorite. They did Power Rangers. And what they probably recognized is making a new toy line without established IP is hard. It's hard to get it into stores. It's hard to get people to like it. It's also hard, at full apologies to everybody that worked on it, the toys suck. And I'll have a lot to say about that in the future.
American Gladiators had a similar problem as well.
And so Bandai's, we have these Power Rangers toys, and I did for fun, looked at 1995 era Power Rangers toys. And something nice about Power Rangers, I noticed, like they had the flip head ones, which were cool, right? That is the exact same mold, the exact same body, just a different paint job on each. And they didn't even have to worry about the heads looking like the actor. Just the blue ones got glasses. So just put glasses on a male face, change the hair colors. We're good. So Bandai pulls out the funding between season 1 and season 2. As Jeff notes, shocker, they're not able to get any of the licenses with martial arts schools that they had hoped to help bolster them. Also, it turns out that just like when they have a shoestring budget, stuff has to go. So that's why Shannon Lee is absent from season 1 versus season 2.
They can't afford that Shannon Lee money.
And then, Jeff, we get into more stuff, which is wrestling based. Eric Betts, aka Panther, gets injured in between season 1 and season 2.
Do we know how?
And actually, this goes real. This has so many facets. I'm going to spend some time on this, Jeff. This has so many facets that are great. One part about this show, because it was shoestring, is there are these ninjas we brought up a bunch. That every time there's a fight between two characters, a bunch of ninjas come in and fight.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
we love the ninjas.
Here's some nice. This is something wrestling would do too, that you're probably both familiar with, like Logan. I know for like older stuff, right? Is, hey, if you've got two people fighting and the rest of your cast isn't fighting, you can slap some makeup or something on them and they come out and be an extra character. It's super easy if they're ninjas. Yeah. So a lot of the ninjas were played by cast members, except for Hakeem the Machine, because he was too tall. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's got to be nice for him.
Yeah.
He just gets that time off. He's like, I'm not doing this.
So Herb Perez, who we've already established was not a stuntman, he was a professional.
He was an Olympian,
fighter,
a lawyer, and a Dragon Star champion.
Yes. I hope he has that on his business cards.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was doing a fight as a ninja with Eric Betts, aka Panther. And what apparently happened in, again, the oral history of WMAC, Chris, you are amazing, amazing book. But they switched the mat out and one of the mats didn't give. And so actually Eric Betts breaks his hip while fighting with Herb Perez as a ninja. Eric Betts gets really upset. It's weird because it's kind of a rightfully so, but also confusing, which is the producer, Norman, was like, hey, to keep you're sidelined, which is fine, but we like your character. Is it okay if we just write that into the show that you got injured and film your rehab for the show? And Eric Betts did not take that kindly, and then also had a lawsuit with the show about getting injured and even went after Herb Perez. It seems like that's all gotten smoothed over after the fact, but that's part of what was going on in season 2 as well. Their budget is slashed and people they lose one of their primary actors who gets injured, who is now involved in a lawsuit with a bunch of your other actors in the show. You've lost some key characters. They lost Baby Doll, one of their 3 women characters, because she wanted to go act in a Steven Seagal movie. So yeah, you had a lot of turmoil.
That is a lateral move.
That is a down move. Because
wait, 96 though? What? Steven Seagal's still not. I think
I would rather stay on the show with lax safety precautions and very shoestring budget than maybe maybe have the possibility of being in a closed room with Steven Seagal. That is the worst gamble you could make as an actress. Oof.
Anyway, that's all what happens between season 1 and season 2. And so that's why there's a lot of tumult. And then, yeah, basically the show itself basically ran into the Attitude Era of wrestling, which was the thing it was trying to ape, and the Powers of the Force, which was the market. It was like, it's trying to get in as a startup into the market, and then just the biggest company with the best IP comes out and is just like, this market's ours for a while. Go listen to that episode of Nerd.
So one thing also that they got rid of with season 2 because of the low budget, they completely jettisoned all of the backstory segments that they would do. We don't have any of the, I'm dating a NASA astronaut and stuff, because that would require them filming on location at places. So it's just all backstage.
Oh, yeah. Also, Nastronaut. Thank you. Like Nastronaut.
I don't know where we would fit this, but I feel like I need to bring it up. The Willy Whip is, her Perez's disc launcher is stupid, but the Willy Whip is also possibly one of the stupidest weapons I have ever encountered.
You mean a man's braided hair that he then has his son, he cuts his son's braid off with ice?
Yes. And then they attach it to a stick, and he uses it as a weapon called the Willy Whip because his name is Willy.
So, honestly, though,
yeah,
not the stupidest thing you're going to see in this show.
There was a weird moment for me watching it now, because this is one of those things where we talk about just nostalgia versus reality. In my brain, I remembered him being a very big dude, on size with Tiger Claw and shit.
No,
and then when you see the
5'8",
he is 5'4".
Yeah.
He's a 5'4" man.
Yeah, you're gonna get that in a lot of martial artists. If I'm being like a 6 foot,
so I was just
martial
wrong.
artist is fucking rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we talk, by the way, this is fun because I actually did record these stats. I'm the stats guy. I love this.
Yeah,
I did record
love a good stat.
I did record the heights and weights that are listed on the show. So fun bit of trivia fact. We never see Tracer's stats because he only does a mixed doubles fight. And guess what's something they jettison in season 2? In season 2, not only are the women disrespected, it's wild because they have a lot of really good, talented female martial artists on the show. And then, and I have theories about that. So he only
90s.
competes.
People didn't care about women, remember?
He competes in a mixed doubles fight with Chameleon. And when there is a woman fight in season 2, we don't see the full stats. When there is a male fight, we see the full
and they
stats.
do that with wrestlers too. They do that in the WWE. They do not announce the weights.
Women's weights or heights. They usually don't announce heights.
They do height. They'll do height, but they don't do
for tall guys.
In season 1, they do have stats, but that means we are except for Tarantula, who is hilarious. So Tarantula, who is Lynette Love, she's a 1988 Taekwondo gold medalist. One of the reasons she didn't stick around on the show is she is as tall as Hakeem the Machine at 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
And one of the female fighters only in season 1 is Mouse, who is 5 feet even and 100 pounds. So I think
they realized one of those fighters who shows up for 30 seconds in the background of a women's match because they don't show the whole thing. It's very sad.
Yeah. Well, she said she recorded it, forgot about it, then got money from it. And Jeff, this will appeal to you. If you then watch the actual episode where her fight shows up, it's half of a second of her just getting thrown off the top.
Mm-hmm.
After Shannon Lee tells us it was an epic 20-minute fight. And so she watched the show and she was just like, oh, that's all they're going to use of me, huh? And it's entirely possible.
Boy, haven't I been there before.
Yeah. If you ever run into, I'll get her name right, but if you ever run into her, you can talk about fighting and you can be like, we were both on shows where you're just
eliminated from.
Yeah, it is Lynette Love, aka Tarantula, 1988 gold medalist. Too tall for the show was pretty much what happened.
Love that though.
6'4". 6'4" is the tallest height. And then in terms of the female division, Mouse is 5 even, Baby Doll is 5'4", Lady Lightning is 5'4", Bam is 5'4". Kid Carmichael
Bam
is
Bam is 5'4". Bam is a man. He is a African American ninja with a
Inventor of the Willy Whip.
He invented the Willy Whip. It's very important that you guys know that he invented the Willy Whip. That is, there's no
They
more
really like
important
us
information
to know
than the
that.
fact that this man has a braid whip, and that someday his son will have his own Willy Whip.
One of my favorite part in season 2, there's a fight with him and Turbo, and Turbo grabs like his staff that he brought with him because it's I just got too into the moment, so I'm going to use my staff. And Bam uses the braid that's on his head to grab the fucking staff and pull it away, which is
good.
Just great move.
That is called art, folks. Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, Bam is a tiny little guy, just a tiny little thing.
Well, we noticed this too. Another one of the characters. So the second biggest man on the show, outside of Tracer, but Tracer fights in one fight in season 2, which is very annoying for a
there
stats
to be a
person.
shit stirs where he's
Yeah.
I love him. But
he also has a shockingly racist moment when do you guys remember that?
Yeah, he calls the guy like
he goes up to the character Typhoon. He's like, "Do you ever speak anything other than Japanese? I'm tired of hearing that." Like,
yeah, he goes, "Get out of my face," or something.
Yeah.
And so, by the way, the story with that character who is Cyclone, who is Akihiro Noguchi, he is actually a stunt coordinator for Power Rangers. They brought him into the show and were like, hey, you can double dip. You can be a director, stunt coordinator, as well as be a character on the show. You will notice that he only has one fight. That is because he also got injured during a stunt.
That's why he's in a cast in most of the backstage.
They wrote him into the show with that. And in real life, he doesn't speak English that well. Again, this is just fun casting. You're like, you should be on this show. He said himself, I should do stunts. I should not be an actor in this show. And they're like, you should do it. And I don't really speak English. And that's not what I do. So he comes in, gets injured. Then he just has to be in the show. Instead of seeing his amazing martial arts, he just has to act. And the way they get around the fact that he can't speak English is somehow Bam is able to perfectly translate everything he says. Classic, like Han and Chewie dynamic.
And in terms of rip-off costumes, the one fight that he does have, we see his outfit. It's just Ryu, but with an open gi and a black tank top underneath.
I would add, by the way, that every 5'4" adult black dude I know does speak Japanese.
How many do you know, Jeff? Do you know? Are you going to have?
I do know. I do know one. He's like a huge anime freak. Yeah.
Is
he
Bam
also has a
be
Willy
the next
Whip?
guest on?
Huh?
Does he also?
No, I'm not going to do that too, and I'm not going to like out him as a weeb or anything like that. But it was very funny because I was just like, oh yeah, this is all makes sense. There's a pattern I'm seeing here, and it is that anime fucking rules.
All right. So by the way, there's another interesting.
No, I want to talk about the boxing anime I've been watching recently. Actually, thank you very much.
No, you still need to watch Bloodhounds, that K-drama boxing thing. You would love that show, Jeff.
Well, Jeff's not allowed to watch stuff that he would like. He has to watch terrible stuff like this and then make podcasts about it.
I actually go through and I want to know how many of these people I'd beat in an actual fight, because I'm I'm a former amateur fighter. But if I'm fighting Yin Yang Man, I think I might take him.
Somebody I want to make fun of, though, I need to get back to Tiger Claw. I thought he sucked ass when I was a kid, and now I still think he sucks ass. But he sucks so much ass, it's entertaining.
I love Tiger Claw so much.
He is the most out of shape man in this show. And I'm not saying he's not out of shape. I'm just saying he's the most out of shape. He's not an out of shape man. Like, he's in decent shape. But they also, either they insist or he does fucking Shorin Ryu. So he's doing karate. So like him and Turbo, like, it's such a white guy martial art to be doing that it's so funny that they're doing that. But what's really funny to me is that he either he insisted or the stunt coordinator insisted that Tiger Claw do a bunch of like leaps.
Yeah.
Like, he jumps a lot in this show. And I'm like, dude, that is not your strength.
He has Zubaz pants on and a sleeveless tee. That's his costume. He looks like if you walked into his dojo, you would be like, oh, fuck, I'm going to be screwed out of my cash. This is not. He's Rex Kwando.
I was literally going to say he looks like they saw him and they were like, let's Rex Kwando that guy. Every other small town has a karate dojo run by this guy. He's not great. He's got this like thick Southern drawl that feels fake.
he seems like he's playing a character of a Southern man, but he is a Southern. Yeah.
He's bad. Yeah, but he's all bad. He's the second tallest dude, right? He's 6 feet tall as far as
He's also
And
like
211
200 pounds. He outweighs
211.
everybody by a good 50 pounds.
I would say, by the way, so in season 1, where we have the weird backstories, and a lot of these are interpersonal, so like people know each other. The Tiger Claw versus Great Wolf, and Great Wolf is something we're gonna have to devote a decent chunk of time to Great Wolf. But they're supposed to be friends, and they are friends in real life. So that's the good news on the show. When they're like, these two were friends and trained together. Yeah, all of these people competed in like similar circuits, similar cycles, worked on similar shows. So there is, I mean, that's one of the weird parts about the show. The acting isn't great, but I would argue there is some good chemistry. And the chemistry is because these people are friends in real life. But the backstory between Tiger Claw and Great Wolf is they were friends that would compete in tournaments with each other.
They were childhood friends.
They're childhood. And Great Wolf says, "Hey, I've got this great kick." Was it Tiger Claw or Great Wolf? It was Great
Tiger
Wolf.
Claw has the great
showed
kick,
him this,
and he shows it to him, and he says, "You can never use this against me." And
Then
that's
I'll
my
never use it against you.
That's my problem with Tiger Claw as a character. We talk about how kiddie this show is. Everyone else is still like, you could kind of understand them as an adult. Like, it's, oh, this guy's a hothead, and he's like playing up like a kiddie way. Tiger Claw seems like an adult who has a child's brain in his body. He's like, you can't use my own move against me. I showed it to you. He's playing by kids' rules. He sounds like the Turbo Team characters from I Think You Should Leave.
He's so whiny. And also he's like explaining like the kick in question is a double leaping
crescent kick,
leprechaun jig style kick where you like kick the side of a person's neck with each.
What I love is they have this kick in the book, in the oral history of WMAC. They have it in the book, and what I absolutely love is he talks to both of them. He talks to both Jamie and just drop Tiger Claw's real name. He talks to both of them. They're both like, I guess they're like, you could knock someone out with that kick if they stood perfectly still and you got the angle exactly right. Yeah, it's not a kick you would ever use. I wasn't a fan of. Here's what's rough, by the way, when you guys are talking Tiger Claw, and I think it's a lot of people on the show. Because he's not an actor, a lot of the notes in the book read where he's just, I was just happy to be there. They'd give a suggestion. I would say, I didn't really like it. He would even comment. He would say, he's from the South. You go like, we don't say that. But he's, if you want me to say it, I'll say it. So
the N-word.
What
is he not saying that they would do?
No, like just like,
no, I'm not going to say that. Let Tracer do it. And Tracer says, I absolutely will say that. Yes.
No, just the fact that, they would have like colloquialisms occasionally. It'll be like, oh, shucks, that's like a dog wouldn't eat that splatter. And
oh, that
like,
dog wouldn't kiss my meaty ass. Can I get a cut? Can I get a cut on that one? Yo, hey, man.
Name is Tiger Claw. Remember it.
That's right, mon ami. Come on, you all fight the Tiger Claw share. And then some 5'4" Korean dude flips over him and kicks him straight to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the fact that Tiger Claws, you know how I have a huge vertical leap and can kick people in the head when I jump up by clicking my heels together. That's my move. And meanwhile, Great Wolf is, I'm going to take that move. Me and my wonky eye.
Tiger Claw looks like a guy who would put a cigarette out on somebody in a fight. He did. Like,
yeah, Tiger Claw has mall fight energy.
Uh-huh.
He has parking lot energy.
Do you want, I want to avoid this because I love this show. I love the Tiger Claw character. And as I mentioned, we get into this weird kayfabe where there's real versus reality. Guess what Tiger Claw does in real life, Jeff?
He's a mall security guard.
Corrections officer.
He trains cops to fight.
Yeah, no, that's the least surprising thing you could have told me or Jeff. Like,
I should not have that in common with Tiger Claw.
And what's funny is when you talk shit about people on the show, Jeff. So we made Jeff watch this show in season 1. If you didn't grow up with it, season 1 is rough because while the stunts are pretty decent, they were under budget at the time and are now dated with what we're used to.
Yeah.
And the behind the scenes are just as bad as we're saying, even worse if you're an adult. So Jeff's watching and I hate Great Wolf. I hope he gets hit by a car. Now, here's the thing. Great Wolf.
I hope Great Wolf get hit by a car? Because I don't.
That was Great Wolf.
Yeah.
No, I think you said that about Tiger.
No, I said that about Tiger Claw, though.
Yeah. Yeah, we took a lot of shits on Tiger Claw in that chat. And note again, Well, until I found out he trained cops, whatever. But I have no problem with these people. It's just that character sucks. So yeah.
But Great Wolf is 5'8", 184 pounds. He's older than us, right? Because they were, we were kids, middle schoolers, right? With middle school to high school when this show came out. So I think if Jeff tracked down Great Wolf and was like, let's fight, like the Green Ranger on Power Ranger likes to do. If Jeff did that, I would put my money on Jeff, right? Because Jeff, competitive fighter, still.
I mean, I got age on him, but if he's still training people how to fight and he is a beefy.
No, but that's what I was going to say. Tiger Claw, of all the people on this list to talk shit about, I would say Tiger Claw and Akeem are the only two you shouldn't, because I think they, I would probably put money on you beating everybody else in the fight, just given age and size differential. If you were in a closed,
I'm not taking the Machine out. Are you kidding me?
I said Machine.
No, Machine.
That's what I said. I said Machine and Tiger Claw are the two, and probably Lynette Love, the 6'4" gold medalist in Taekwondo, even though she's older than you. I'd say that, and probably not Tracer. But outside of those, I think I'd put money on
Tracer would shoot me. I'm going to say that right now. I guarantee you that Tracer would.
I want to say, I looked up, I think Tracer, you know how they say they draw on their backgrounds? I think that he actually was like a military person who did the Marines martial arts thing. That's why it looks so weird and stiff when he does shit.
He is the only person on the show that's character and name isn't his real name. By the way, his real name, this is hilarious. It's Michael Foley. And Michael Foley is also the name
Foley?
Of Mick Foley. So if you try and look up like 1990s Michael Foley, did you mean Mick Foley? You're like Michael Foley action figure. It's like Mick Foley action figure. So
I understand why he didn't use his real name, because a lot of these guys are getting the branding of that they're heroes in some way. This guy's only a villain. So in that regard, it would make sense that he's, well, come on, man, I still have to make appearances and shit. I don't want to be like a villain. So we'll just make a different name. Oh shit, yeah, I guess I could do.
Well, the only person that really had a bad fallout from that was Warlock. So let's talk a little season 2 if we're ready to do that, and we can still bounce all over the place.
Yeah, let's do it.
One thing I want to say about Warlock before we go there, out of all of the people on this show, he is the guy who pops up in things the most, I noticed, because I remember 4 years later, I was watching Romeo Must Die, and he gets his ass beat in one of the club scenes. I was like, fucking Warlock!
Yeah, Warlock also has the most NES character energy to his outfit.
Isn't he like the Cookie Crisp villain?
It looks like a very comfortable set of pajamas that you want to take a nap in.
Yeah, he looks like he's like a villain in the Little Nemo, the Dream.
Do you know the top 3 people in WMAC Masters that have the most credentials outside of the show?
I'm going to assume
I will
Warlock,
say
right?
Larry.
Warlock, Larry Lamb, number
Larry
1,
Lamb,
over 100
I'm going to say Host Sungpak. Superstar.
Sungpak should be, but what about the Machine? He's in a ton of shit, right?
They're all in a bunch, but the top 3
I say Chris Casamassa last.
He's decent because he was like in Mortal Kombat and stuff, but the top 3 are Warlock, who is Larry Lamb,
okay,
Panther, Eric Betts, who sued the show, and Chameleon, over 70. And Jeff, I had to get this on air for you. Let Kim Krall know about this. Chameleon was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
So Eric Betts got better with his hip, like he's actually able to still do shit. Like,
yeah, he was fine. I mean, he was fine. It was just,
okay.
What ended up happening from the sounds of it is he got knocked out from the show, which upset him, and then he got extra upset. So, and it does sound like the show wasn't super great on, 2 people in season 2 got permanently knocked out for the season with injury doing stunts. So is what it is. And then I think he got upset when they were like trying to capitalize on his injury, which is very funny because that is very WWE, right? Let's record the injury. Let's write this story into narrative. But then I like a point that a hanging thread I had from way back is like the rough part about this show that they just fully steer into in season 2 is they try and make this real martial arts show, but then they're like, it actually doesn't matter who won. When you weren't watching other fights happen, we're just going to show reclips of the women fight. We'll talk about that in a second. So come season 2, they kind of abandon the like week to week progression and just go for a storyline about, what is it? Jaquito, I think. There is a rival school called Jaquito.
The Cobra. to the WMAC.
So
Masters
yeah, the
stuff.
WMAC dragon is like a golden dragon, and Jaquito is just like the bones of a like red dragon.
Yeah, their design's so much cooler.
Yeah. No, theirs actually looks badass. Like,
Yeah, a shout out we may do this as an extra, Jeff. One of my early forays into podcasting, my brother Daniel and I, Daniel was on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode of Nerd. We recorded an episode on WMAC Masters, so I had pre-prep. And his comment on that was, he was like, spoiler for season 2, the Dragon Star is stolen and replaced by the Jaquito Dragon. And my brother's company's like, yeah, the Jaquito Dragon's cooler. Chameleon should be like, can I keep this one? This is way cooler. That other one looked fake. It was made at Michael's. This one at least looks half decent.
Wasn't that also the name of the villain in the first Ninja Gaiden games?
Jaquito?
Maybe.
Jaquito or Jaquio or something like that. So that
sounds familiar.
Something. I think that's like the bad guy in the first 2.
Jaquio. Yeah. Jacuo.
So that's probably like a big deal. That phrase or whatever is.
They also with season 2 with the Jaquito stuff, they actually use that to write out Panther, because Tracer and Warlock say like, you have to follow the plan, or do you want to end up like Panther, which implies that Panther was also a bad guy.
Also, Panther wore contacts and fangs.
Yeah, no, him in terms of his look, but also the way he would talk to the camera before fights. He seemed to be the person who most understood the show that he was in. He was very theatrical on that shit. And it makes sense because I think he was one of the stunt people who had Hollywood experience.
And he has gone on to actually be a decent actor. He's had an acting, when I bring up Warlock, as you're noting, you're recognizing him as like guy number 2 that does a cool flip in a Jet Li movie. Whereas like Panther will get speaking parts in other movies. So Eric Betts, I guess. Eric's are cool. Eric spelled the correct way, Jeff, with a K at the end. As all
like
cool.
with a Q at the end.
We love a good Eric with a K.
Eric with K.
Yeah. So obviously the first season is much more of the stakes are more friendly stakes.
It's competition.
Whereas season 2, it gets like it has like a sinister plot to it of usurping this thing and who's a member of the Jaquito and who are these bad guys and stuff. And you're just, I don't know, man. They seem to all just be fighting over like a karate trophy. So it's not that big a deal. You guys are really pushing that they're evil, but
they're so evil.
That you're fucking nerds.
They're so evil that there's an episode where they shoehorn in a anagram device that somebody's playing around with. Hey, you could take our names and make funny anagrams. And then Tracer or Tracy or whatever, they put his name in there and then they all leave. And then when the anagram gets revealed, his first name and last name is an anagram for destroy WMAC. So
that's so funny.
Yeah. Did he plan that? Was he sitting there with a fucking notebook just writing out for that? Oh, I gotta pick the best name for when I invade WMAC.
The Riddler of WMAC.
The Riddler.
Season 1 ends on a cliffhanger. And I love this, Jeff, because I got to watch this in real time. So Superstar and Hakeem the Machine. By the way, I want to take a brief off-ramp here. So Hakeem is a 6'4" Taekwondo kickboxer who would destroy everybody on this show. Like literally every fight should just be, he either grabs them, just destroys them, or gets one kick in there.
He's a giant Adonis. There's a reason
he has 5 inches at least reach on every single person.
Yeah, what's Ho-Sung Pak gonna do?
Yeah,
like
not gonna beat him for points in an alley.
There's one fight where I think it might be the underground like earthquake or whatever fight.
Oh, is it the one where he
like
literally
lifts
throws
up a ninja
guy?
and it's clearly a dummy and he throws him into the train area where if that was real, he would just have murdered him.
That makes me sad that you recognized it was a dummy, not because you're wrong, but because they bring that up in the book, that was like a creative moment where this will come up nice and organically. So season 1, you've got Superstar, the Defender, and Hakeem, the Machine, fighting. And the off-ramp I had with Hakeem is like his shtick is that he's like a cyborg. That's why he's called the Machine. And so he has like a cybernetic arm, a cybernetic eye, and like a metal-plated arm. A lot of this was toyetic. This very much ties into Masters of Terrascasi, Jeff, because this is a hand-to-hand fighting show. But because they were bankrolled by Bondi, however you say it, they wanted action figures. So they're like, we have to have a way to give each of these people weapons that they never use on the show, which reminded me lots of Master of Terrascasi, where it's
whip.
You got to have the braid whip. He did not get an action figure. Shocker.
So on famously, no real weapons are in martial arts.
Skull?
Maybe. I hope not. But yeah, so in Master of Terrascasi, it's hilarious because they're like hand-to-hand fighting, and then they're like, we have light swords and blasters, and they just pull them out. Whereas this is the opposite, where like they start every fight where they're like, Red Dragon comes out with a sword, or Machine comes out with a big bow staff, and they're like, we'll demonstrate it, do something really cool. They're like, now put the weapon down. That is martial artsy, by the way, because that is a event you can do as demonstration with that.
They're basically doing katas. Yeah.
They have a lot more of those in season 2 to eat up time.
Oh, yeah, boy, don't they?
Yeah. But with that being said, season 1 ends with them fighting, and then they both get kicked off. Because again, as Jeff mentioned, you go for a championship every 4 episodes about, and they fight on top of this spinning like platform where ninjas come in, and you win by being the last person standing on this platform.
Mm-hmm.
But both Superstar and the Machine get kicked off by a ninja who looks like he's going to reveal his face to end season 1. And instead, 6 months pass, people let their hair grow out. True story. And then
the hair thing is insane when you come back. Like Herb Perez's hair is down to like past his ear. It's grown a good 7 inches in between 10 minutes of showtime.
Yeah, season 1 ends on a cliffhanger. We try and do a smooth cut to season 2, and they're like, should we make sure that the looks match? And they're like, don't worry about it. They're like, should we make sure the characters in the room match? Add new people. So Tracer just randomly wasn't in season 1 at all, and he's just there. He's there.
They're probably just, well, we lost our Bandai money, so fuck it.
Pretty much.
Do anything.
Apparently they did not tell the cast, so it's kind of funny. So like they didn't want them to worry. And apparently they did a decent enough job. That could speak to how bad they were doing production in season 1, where the cast and crew weren't as aware in season 2 that they were as constrained budgetarily as they were. Season 2 starts up. The ninja tries to get the Dragon Star, but the Dragon Star will only rise for a master. So the ninja uses a smoke bomb, an awful lot like Warlock's smoke bomb, but who knows, and vanishes. And then this season, we basically have Superstar and Akeem fight for the Dragon Star I think they say it's an underground layer or something.
They say that it is the underground tram to the arena, because they apparently in the kayfabe of this show, this is such a huge arena that it has its own personalized underground rail system specifically for this.
That's what Bandai was paying for.
Which looks a lot like the ride at Universal Studios that has an earthquake happen in it.
It's literally from Earthquake, the movie.
Yeah. While the earthquake is happening, the Masters say, like the overhead voice says, keep fighting. Because the competition it's like a game of like,
they don't
capture
care
the flag in reverse. Basically, either Machine or Superstar has to put their key symbol in
a giant fake Dragon Star.
Yeah, in a giant fake Dragon Star, and the first one to do that wins, and they have to fight through ninjas and each other. And while they're doing that, an earthquake happens that in the show also happens at the real place. And they're like, keep fighting. This place has stopped fights over people taking off their gloves. But they're like, nope.
We're having too much pepper in there.
One of my favorite things about the earthquake thing is when they cut back to the backstage training thing where all of the superstars hang out. Yin Yang Man's defense against an earthquake is jumping on a punching bag and holding on for dear life.
Yeah,
it's a real Yin Yang Man move right there.
Yeah.
Or is he holding the monkey stick? You got to act like a monkey when you hold the monkey stick, remember?
Yin Yang Man might be the funniest character, and it's totally inadvertent, but Yin Yang Man has a backstory.
Yes.
That they just smush into the middle of this story where he was a karate champion 8-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And they got hit in by a drunk driver, and he went to the hospital and didn't care anymore, but then got it back. But there's this part where my dad didn't have me wear my seatbelt, and it kind of makes it feel like his dad was like, no son of mine will wear some pussy seatbelt. Then a drunk driver runs a red light and kill. It kind of seemed like he was about to say, killed my family.
He was holding his statue or his trophy from the karate tournament in the back seat. So is the implication that the trophy went into his fucking eye?
It is now.
I think that's what
it is
Yeah,
now.
no. It seemed like something went on where he lost his eye.
Mm-hmm. And he
Eh.
had this cool "I'm a kid with an eye patch" montage looking completely badass. So of course every other kid's gonna yell at him and make fun of him.
And I'm a karate
Yeah.
champion.
One kid calls him Cyclops.
That's
Which,
awesome.
if I heard that this kid had numerous karate trophies and an eye patch, I don't think I would be saying that to him as like another.
Here's the thing.
You gotta
On the
chop
one
down the
hand, you would
tallest tree,
say,
Logan.
on the one hand, you would like to say that would be in poor taste of the show.
Mhm.
Cyclops would have been a better name for him. Maybe they didn't want to get in a fight with Marvel. By the way, just on that note where I say it seems like it would be in poor taste, but as in back to Great Wolf briefly. Great Wolf in real life is Native American, and he
Oh,
did
thank
go
God.
for the. Yeah, yes, he is. Yeah, thank God. So he is for real. He actually did in the land of the 90s, did about as good as you can because he did ask other people there. But I think when he went into WMAC Masters, like, I'm Native American, I've cleared my name, they're cool with me representing us. They were like, fantastic. Okay, now before every fight, put your hands together and we're gonna have like lightning and wind come behind you through your hair. Wear
Do me a favor,
pigtails.
breakdance by this campfire, please.
They're like, wear a headdress and breakdance by a campfire and have visions. And I think similar to Tiger Claw, they're just like, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be a step up from competing because, a serialized show probably pays better, but didn't push back a ton. But it is just, I feel he went in and was like, I'm Native American. We can use that in my backstory. And they're like, heard you loud and clear.
Is it in the book, his reactions to that? Because there is also this thing where I think in a modern era, we are very reactionary about stuff
Yeah.
like that, when it very well could be this is actually the way my tribe dictated that this would be why.
He said that
So,
he had
like,
asked about it, didn't have a problem with it, didn't have a problem at the time. A weird, interesting comment. I've loved you bring this up a lot, Logan, when you talk about stuff like this, and I love how your eye for representation. Two brown people with a white guy in the middle. Jeff will keep talking and see if we can make you uncomfortable. I will say the irony when it comes to like racism, and I can only speak for myself, those like typically, if you are not white in the United States, when you ask us to stack rank how much stuff bugs us.
Mhm.
So I think sometimes people take like George Carl I saw recently did this about the Redskins. It was like, oh yeah, the local tribe doesn't mind
George
the name.
Carlin didn't do anything recently, by the way.
George Carl, the
Oh,
Denver Nuggets coach,
fair enough.
not the
Sorry,
not the
I
dead
misheard
comedian.
you, and I was like, oh, I think I.
We should do
that's
George
good.
Carl
Right.
versus George Carlin. Was like defeated by Dikembe Mutombo. Could be either. Who knows? But yeah, George Carl, the NBA coach, recently said, "Oh yeah, I heard that some people, some tribes don't mind the Washington Redskins name in the DC area." And you might be right, but also if you're asking the things that they have to complain about or upset with about, they're like, yeah, the football team's not great, but when you compare it to other things, it may not be top of the list. So I think sometimes that happens.
They're like,
where
our women are missing.
Yeah.
That's a bit more important.
I
The
think sometimes
numerous abductions of women that have not gone investigated. You literally taking a sacred mountain and blowing it up to put shitty precedents on the side of it. That was probably a bigger problem with it. It's
But that also is, there are but we can also look at it and be like, yeah, it's not the biggest problem we have, but what the fuck is wrong with you?
also, in terms of that, I doubt I'm not going to speak for Jamie Webster, but I doubt he was getting many opportunities, even if it wasn't the best of representation, but just to even represent like his Cherokee heritage and stuff. So he's probably not great, but at least it's something, and I can try to make this work. Which
That
I'm
is
assuming
always-
is that his attitude in the book.
yeah, pretty much. He's like, I cleared stuff. I didn't mind it. Looked kind of cool. And then to your point, Jeff, when you start anchoring stuff in time, like if you look at Native American representation in easy places like WWE, what G.I. Joe, other stuff of the era, this is leaps and bounds better. Yes, they still fall for some of the tropes of mysticism, whatever, but actually have someone of the tribe playing that instead of, as you're mentioning, like an Italian or someone else. So it's ironic where it's good for the era, and we compare this, say, to Five-O Goes West, and I'm just like, yeah,
I think this probably had, if you compared it to other shows, just of its similar stature, like a kid show like that, it probably had the highest representation of Asian Americans.
It did
Oh,
great.
100%. Yeah.
Because like,
Because
and
who
that
are
was
the
one of the
best
reasons
stunt
why I
fighters
did.
in the world?
That's one of the reasons why I did like it as a kid. Specifically, was like, oh, they're not Arab and stuff, but it's like, oh, it's not just a bunch of white people, and that kind of drew me in to, oh, you can be black on this show, you can be Native American, you can do that, and you have a chance to, even though I knew it was fake, but you have a chance to like compete on the show.
And like the one main white guy got some NASA ass.
Yeah.
Nass.
So you were talking about like how that woman was like any era hot. I feel Chris Casamassa is like the most 90s of 90s himbos.
Yeah, he might as well have been an extra in Baywatch.
Yeah.
That's the 90s era. He's got Greco energy a little bit.
A crossover I do want to talk, because one of my favorite new podcasts is the WNBA podcast with Adam Todd Brown and Logan Trent. And one of the reasons I love it is you are talking about the amazing WNBA, and then also discussing something that's near and dear to my heart, because I've worked close with David Barry, who's a professor at Southern Utah University, recently wrote a book called Slaying the Trolls. And it's about a lot of the myths around like women's sports and, people being like, nobody watches the WNBA. Easy comparable is at the respective ages of the NBA and WNBA. The WNBA is pulling in a larger audience, and it's a much more competitive field. So I absolutely love the show. You got me to join a WNBA fantasy league. If I hadn't been not paying attention for a week, I would be probably in the playoffs, but I at least get to hold a super duper large lead against Adam Todd Brown while we're on the Olympic break. So I got that going for me. But I love that show where you bring up like misconceptions about the WNBA, things that people are missing. And one of the major bummers about this show is that they got a lot of talented martial artists that are women that got virtually no screen time, are glossed over. Instead of full fights, we are shown to recap at any given time. There are only 3 active fighters among the women that are actual crew people that are fighting. Lynette Love, as I mentioned, was hired, recorded some stuff, but then went home. She was not a regular. So all of the stuff they had of hers was pre-recorded footage. They couldn't do reaction shots, etc. They just have her lose to Lady Lightning and go off into the sunset. They have a character in season 2 called Black Widow who doesn't exist. The actress who plays her does not have a footprint at all anywhere on the internet. It is wild. And we never see her fight, and she just abdicates the throne, and she wins a Dragon Star off scene. So good timings. And my annoying conspiracy theory that was not validated in the book is that pretty much Bandai probably said, classic line we've always heard, girls don't buy toys. We don't want action figures. And action figures, the characters that had action figures on the show got a lot more played than the characters that didn't, which is why we see more Tsunami than Bam, as an example. Because Tsunami had an action figure, Bam did not.
The action, so with Bam specifically, I don't know if this is in the book or not, or if this is just bullshit, but I read that if you did not have an action figure, you pretty much would never win on the show. So Bam, I don't think ever wins a fight, or he never wins a Battle Dome thing.
That sounds true.
I think you're right. An action figure.
Yeah, like these things go for, obviously they have prices, but they're priced in the low 3 figures for a lot of like mint on card action figures. Although you can get a machine for $68 on eBay right now.
Mint? Because I mean, the figures kind of what's the word? Not mint on card, but
well, it's not mint on mint card, but it's
but just if you find them not loose, right? It seemed to be about 70 for that, and then the play sets. We can talk toys a little. Yeah, go for about 120. But yeah, toys drove the show very much so, and then it seems like a double-edged bite because, as we noted in season 2, they're like Herb Perez. You need to have a bow, like a shooter, a disc shooter.
Launches.
You have to have a crossbow. Thank you. They took Chris Casamassa. They actually took his real fight. I don't know what they're called, but they look like tiny dragons that he holds in his hand that would have a knife out of them. They rigged those to shoot sparks, which they were going to have as a toy. But then they pulled out. So basically, the show notes from Bandai for writing season 2 were to be more toyetic. And then they pulled out, they didn't get any toys. So it's like the worst of both worlds, because now your show has all of these arbitrary things showing up that are going to be toys coming soon to a store near you. And that never happens. And then, of course, like I said, that's why I'm led to believe that the producers of the show, the people that put the show together, were like, we're going to have a really diverse cast that's in the points of the Dragon Star. The Dragon Star has 8 points. I don't know them all, but that's like the show. The show's like these martial artists are all training under the Dragon Star and living their life to this philosophy. Obviously, they want to be diverse, but they were DEI before it was cool. That shows up in some of the messages at the end. So they wanted women there. And then I think all of the producer notes from like Bandai, the people funding them, are like, no one's going to buy their toys. We're not going to make toys of them. And ergo, they're not going to be on the show. And then the show's only going to use the footage of them when they need to stretch for time, which did happen in season 2.
Yeah.
Turns out girls did buy toys.
Yeah. I mean, girls be shopping.
Women be shopping. And the girls be shopping with women money.
Yeah. It's just, like I said, it's a bummer thing. Although, again, like I said, it's better representation than pro wrestling at the same time, which was, I think we were about to get in the era of copious amounts of bra and panties matches, or matches where they fell into a tub, which was like a kiddie pool filled with some type of gravy or whipped cream or some
this
mud
was just like when the WWE would have Alundra Blaze versus Bull Nakano. And who, by the way, Bull Nakano, such a cool design. And then Blaze left and became Medusa in WCW because WCW said, we'll do women's wrestling. And then they brought her over and then they didn't. But at least she got to throw her title in the trash on TV.
Yep. All right. So by the way, I don't have an organic one for this, Jeff, but now seem like a good time for producers.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but head on over to patreon.com/JeffMay. You can produce shows. You can get lots of stuff. We do stuff in the mail. We do show productions. You can produce Jeff Has Cool Friends. You can also produce Nerd. You can produce everything. And we have some very special nerd producers up in this piece. So we're going to give a very, very big shout out to the following people. And if you are one of the producers and somehow your name didn't come through, what happened? Send me a message and we'll make sure we take care of that and get it on there and everything like that. But we're going to give a big shout out and I will, you know what, Dre, you can start.
All right. We got to give a shout out to Kung Fu Master Burrito, who is not able to make the I Must Drake Use on Monday. Jeff Has Cool Cards. Check it out if you haven't, because he's too busy practicing Kung Fu. You will be happy to know that Star Warrior on WMAC Masters, Kung Fu Master, and won the Dragon Star. Shout out to the Enchanted Wandering Unpierced Left Nipple Cider. Sorry, let's see. Shout out to the...
No. Keep this in.
Yeah, keep it in.
No, you should.
Enchanted Wandering Unpierced Left Nipple cider served at room temperature. You got your money's worth in length, and that was a Tiger Claw-ish performance, if ever there was one. Shout out to Norm from Cheers. Norm, I sent you something in the mail to Jeff, so make sure you get it. Shout out to Bimmy and Jimmy out fighting crime, and I'm going to do an audible. This is Landon. I was talking with him last night. How about shout out to Scorpion and Liu Kang out fighting crime? How's that for a reference?
Yeah,
Jeff, right. I'll let you get the
Hey, everybody, give me a shout out to drinkwithmikeslater.com every time Dre plugs the back catalog. So if you've been doing that, you're dead by now. Shout out to I'm going to start calling Yoda Old Grogu just to see what happens. A big bad shout out to Ricky Cilantro, Dan's Ninja Turtle Ooze, and Porcelain Jesus. If you want to get in on that, head on over to patreon.com/JeffMay. For a very affordable price, you can produce the monthly show Nerd. You can produce Jeff Has Cool Friends. You can produce all of it. You can get cards in the mail. And thank you all very much. And back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Live from Universal Studios, Florida, where you can ride.
Love it. Okay, so I'm curious. I want to finish wrapping up season 2 just for Jeff, who I think you know the ending, but I don't know if you got to it. Okay, so as we mentioned, we got Jaquito, who are these people that have infiltrated. Tracer is a brand new character that is introduced to this. He's army guy. He would have been a better Guile than Jean-Claude Van Damme. I'll say that. So Tracer is introduced. He's working with Warlock, and they are going to take down the WMAC from the inside. Their goal is to steal the Dragon Star. The first attempt was Warlock as a ninja tried to steal the Dragon Star, but the security was too good. So try number 2 is they're going to get Warlock to the top of the charts. It's kind of implied that he has ninjas working for him, so Warlock has a very precipitous climb to the top. He challenges Red Dragon. In the middle of the fight with Red Dragon, he is so clear as to help a ninja back onto the scaffold to attack Red Dragon, and no one thinks that's weird, but Chris Casamassa, just that good, still manages to...
Also, that ninja is also wearing garb that no other ninja wears, so it's very nice that he clearly labeled himself for everybody to notice.
Yeah,
And
the red sash ninjas and shit.
Yeah.
and then we have Black Widow retires as the women champ. So we have a three-way fight between Lady Lightning, Baby Doll, and Chameleon. Chameleon's another new character.
Not Baby Doll.
Oh, Baby. Oh, yeah.
Princess.
Baby Doll's not gone. Princess. Sorry. It should have been. It was supposed to be Baby Doll, by the way, but she left
Princess
to be
is
in
better
Steven.
than Baby Doll.
She
Princess all
left to
day.
be in. She left to be a stunt person in The Glimmer Man.
Again, why would you want to be voluntarily with Steven Seagal? Poor choice.
I mean, to be fair, that also has a weigh-ins in it.
It does have a weigh-ins.
That has Keenan Ivory weigh-in, so she might be. That's the long game.
Yeah.
All right, so three-way fight. Apologies between Princess, Chameleon, Lady Lightning. Chameleon wins, yeehaw! But it's discovered that when she wins, Jaquito has replaced the Dragon Star with a red dragon. And I forgot to bring this up, but Great Wolf had a vision, a dream vision about this.
He's been having visions this whole season.
Yeah.
He does a dance around a bonfire in a headdress with Chameleon watching to
He has
pray for
a
the Dragon Star.
vision that the guy who has been like the ref for most of this says the Dragon Star is fake, and then he breaks the Dragon Star into pieces, and then Tsunami just stumbles in his I have the real Dragon Star, and then passes out from plot device syndrome or whatever the fuck it was.
So that happens. Then we have What You Need in a Martial Arts Show, which is a lawyer with a binder doing a recap of what we've seen to explain.
I will say it's tight continuity because Olympus has established numerous times that he did get a legal degree. So.
Yeah, it is really funny that they lean on stuff like that. It's very.
They do actually have good continuity with some stuff because we were talking about that kick that Tiger Claw should never have done earlier, and after they have that that story where they become friends again, they both start using the kick on the show without any badness. So yeah, sorry.
Narratively, the show does okay. And yeah, like I said, so then we get to the point where Olympus, the lawyer, goes over the old shows, does a clip show. Wonder if they're running out of money to explain how Warlock and Tracer are obviously the bad guys. So they got him, but here's the tough part, Jeff. It's going to be another cliffhanger. Warlock and Tracer are about to get on a helicopter where Tracer's using military speak and Warlock's like, what are you talking about? And as they're about to board the plane, a third person arrives with a briefcase with the Dragon Star, and that third person is Tsunami.
What? And we actually saw a hint of this at
Traitor.
the bar when when they lost their mixed doubles, and he's, hey, I made you a drink, and then Tracer shows him his hand when they grab it.
So did you think the hand show was intentional? Because the show also
it's the Hail Hydra of the show, yeah.
Because here's the thing, the show, and a lot of times the subtlety and nuance of acting tends to fall by the wayside, right?
Oh, it's not subtle. He puts it out like this in front of it. It looks insane.
Because of hands, Tracer has a Jaquito tattoo on his hand that he numerously shows off, but there's a ton of scenes where he shows his hands and there's nothing fucking. So just great continuity there.
So what if he's putting makeup on it regularly and it just wiped off during, if you have the gloves on for the fight and it wiped off?
What if
with the Tsunami reveal in season 1, they imply Tsunami extremely wants to have sex with Shannon Lee. There's an entire subplot with that. And then Shannon Lee disappears in season 2. So did she get too close to the truth about Jaquito? Is that what happened to Shannon Lee?
Tsunami's also the one that just graduated, right?
Yes, he graduated from the academy.
Technically, he is the third newest behind Kid Carmichael and Wizard, although it is not, we don't know if Wizard is explicitly a ninja trainee, because that's in universe lore, is that you train as a ninja and that's how you become a master. But then they treat ninjas like shit and say they can't fight.
Energy, yeah.
They not only treat ninjas like shit, but during some of the Dragon Star matches, they legitimately go to the area where the ninjas are sitting and just beat up on ninjas who aren't involved in the match.
I'm actually surprised when they knock a ninja down and they get the points. I'm like, let him start getting up and then kick his ass down again, man. Cool. You're a master of WMAC. Fucking prove it.
That was a subplot we didn't get into huge, which was Tsunami having a big crush on Shannon Lee. His character's name is based on Bruce Lee because Bruce Lee was the water motif and Tsunami doing kung fu, and saying that, hey, it's a relation to water.
Which is
So
why he's dressed like a novelty shower curtain.
yeah,
Ocean spray is what I've heard. Ocean spray.
does in the book that you got, do they make any mention? So like in season 3, was like Tsunami supposed to be a double agent or something, or like what was any
I
plan that they
think
had for that?
so. They wound up with we're not going to get a third season, which just makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that probably the show's first season was probably pretty good.
Yeah,
and it
everybody on the
probably
show should have
peaked.
been like, yeah, and we're not getting a new
Yeah.
season. They're like, yep.
The Nick only had
That
2
makes sense.
seasons, and that was one of the greatest shows of the
Yeah.
2010s. So
But anyway, so with all of that, with like season 3 not happening, they were debating like the banding around the like we could make a movie to wrap it up. And then their argument for the movie was that Tsunami would be tested, but ultimately come out on top.
okay.
But there's no official stuff. There was nothing ever officially written. Scripts weren't in progress. That's the sucky part, is the showrunners knew at the start of season 2 they were in trouble. And then, as is notorious, the real ending of season 3 or season 2, Jeff, if you missed it, is the clip show. So the clip
They had
show
no money.
they basically said, let's give you the backgrounds of the Masters. And so they use, I want to say, all from season 1, right? It's Olympus
It's
getting
all
his
of
medal
those
back.
backstory episodes from season 1. So Olympus with the gold medal
that he
and all of
that
the
his middle
moral
school.
tales and stuff.
So those 4 are the end of the show. That is how the show officially ends, with Tsunami stealing the Dragon Star and the Masters being like, we don't have the Dragon Star, but remember that time Olympus played basketball with Panther and then lost a gold medal? Good times.
Let me tell you,
a badass teen that learned over the course of detention how to be a good dude.
let me tell you,
Did you ever do that,
12-year-old
Jeff? Did you ever have a heart-to-heart with a troubled kid and be like, use the Dragon Star, that's how you'll be a better person? The kid was like, thanks, Jeff, you've changed my life.
No, I just did karate on the kid.
Yeah, then you took
pretty
the
much
gold
did.
medal from him.
Yeah, and then I took his emblem, which
Yeah,
was
you currently have Olympus's gold medal. It's
all,
in your
all those kids, all of their emblems were Sacagawea coins. So I have a belt just covered in Sacagawea coins.
Sacagawea coins and pogs. That's what they were really
That
used for.
feels wrong somehow, Jeff, but I'm not going to take it from
I
you.
mean, it's better than quarters, What was I going to say? Susan B. Anthony, that's a bit.
I will say 12-year-old me, when he saw that, the episode ends on a cliffhanger, and then he saw, oh, there's a new episode next week. And when he got to that new episode and it was a clip show, extremely pissed. I was not happy with that as a child.
Very 90s thing to be pissed in an extreme way.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, at least they got to try to make a final episode, like they did something, which is like better than the literal nothing.
No, I think it was a 30 Rock bit, legit, which is I think they were contractually obligated for 13
That was
episodes,
exactly what
couldn't do
happened.
anything. And so they were like, Hakeem, could you do us a solid and just be like, we've had a lot of fun on this show.
Can you
We'll pay you a little extra?
your
We'll do
metal
this for
outfit and do karate and do kickboxing?
Well, and I mentioned this before. So Cyclone was brought in as a kid. It was like they would try to double dip, which is admirable. And double by what I mean, they would try and double dip, and by that what I mean is they would try and hire people that were stunt or martial artists who could also, I'll put in quotes, act. We've discussed this on the show, Jeff, where it's going, if you're going to make a show and you go, can I get an actor and train them up to look decent at whatever they're trying to portray, whatever martial art, whatever sport? Or do I take someone who is an expert, a top of the field person in that sport or thing, and try and teach them to act? Your response, Jeff, is you always go with the actor first.
You go with the actor. You go with the actor every time, because you can train people to specifically do stunt motion. And usually if you're getting an actor, you wouldn't get John Candy to be your Korean martial arts expert. Obviously, like you'd get somebody who's already very physically adept and acts and so like you would do that, book the actor, and then teach them how to do the motions, the moves, and the like.
Also, I feel like there's enough, especially in modern days, there's enough actors who do have that background, or just people who have that background who decide to take acting lessons so that they can, do that.
Look, I go to a boxing gym in North Hollywood, California, and actors are there. Like actors go there and they train in that. Like Mario Lopez famously trains in boxing out here. Mark Wahlberg, like there are guys who study that. He's want to do the fighter, and it's you can act ish and box. So that of course.
That's one of the things that made it. This is a totally separate tangent, but that was one of the reasons why I was so confused as the casting for the Iron Fist show, where they had numerous actors who had martial arts experience, and they chose the one guy who had none whatsoever for a character who's supposed to be a master martial artist.
He was the thing about the Iron Fist show is I know why they chose him because
of Game of Thrones.
He's just off of buzz with Game of Thrones. I feel like if they had a little bit more time, they could have done it. I don't think he was incapable of doing this stuff, and he wasn't a bad actor. They just didn't execute that right. And they did better in The Defenders. He actually is much more, and season 2, he's much better.
Yeah.
There are 2 seasons of Iron Fist?
Wow. Yeah. Second season has Typhoid Mary is like the villain, right? It's like Alice Eve, I want to say.
Yeah, it's so good.
Well, if WMAC Masters can get 2 seasons, anything can get 2
WMAC
seasons.
Masters should have had 5 seasons, sir.
And a movie. I will say this. There's one thing that didn't quite come up organically, but was the last, there are 2 things on my list, and we're almost at the end, Jeff. I know with your heart stop. So one is there was actually a director feud. So they had 2 people doing directing. Oddly, only one of them gets all of the credit on IMDb, but they are both mentioned in the oral history of the WMAC Masters. And basically, one of their strategies was continuous cuts to film it like a real fight. And the others was to use cuts and music and whatever. And you can definitely see that season 2 goes with the second style. And you can tell in season 1 who's doing what. And so the funny point about martial artists versus actors is as soon as you start editing the fights, it is fair game, in my opinion, to basically say it is less important that we have a stunt person that can do this in one go, and we should just get someone that can make it look good. So that's like the irony there is I feel the show tried to do too much. It had a lot of grand ambitions and on the budget it had. And I think here's a weird comparable is Babylon 5. Babylon 5 has a lot of growing pains in season 1, but it had people that at least stuck with it through season 4. World Martial Arts Council had the backers pulled out after season 1. And I do think, I might be wrong, Jeff, but I do think if it had gotten some more love, it could have very well been better. But I think Logan nailed it, where I think the show was 2 years too late. If this show had been made in 92, it could have been good. Sorry, 95, you're running into Powers of the Force and the Attitude Era of WE. No, 96 is the last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just,
But the problem is, I don't know if there was ever going to be a place for it, to be 100% honest, because without Mortal Kombat, this show doesn't happen either. And that's still post where we're talking. So in that regard, like it is sort of the man without a country of a television show, where it's an interesting and fascinating idea. Also, martial arts reality never really pays out. We've talked about this with the Final Fu, that I've always been like, man, I loved Final Fu. Like
someone find me a copy of Final Fu on VHS or DVD so I can make an episode of Nerd about it. It is not because of SEO like Jeff would think. It's because I physically cannot find the show. Final Fu.
One other thing that kind of hit me right now, because you kept bringing up toyetic and stuff like that. It's very weird that their focus was so much on toys when they probably should have made a fighting game. With
I think you understand the difference financially between toys and toys are so much money.
No, but isn't there a way to do both instead of just all of your focus being on that?
Toys is a much faster process. Because the video game, you're going to have to go to somebody and say, you need to develop us a video game. And when we talk about Terrascasi, there's a lot of problems that came in with Capcom and the disagreement between Lucasfilm and Lucasfilm will do it all fucking selves. And they made a terrible game. Right. And like when games are $60, in 90s money, that's a lot. But the amount of $6 action figures that you can get out, and you're using relatively old molds for a lot of things, like it's kind of like making bank. Like Kenner doing Robin Hood, all they did was a couple of different head sculpts, but for the most part, they just reused molds.
Which is why these toys failed, because these were based on real people. They all had custom weapons and stuff. And then Bandai was like, literally same exact mold, same exact figure, different paint job.
And also just the show wasn't popular enough.
No,
It was, yeah.
it was not.
Because that's it. Like, you got to have enough people to watch the show. And of the people watching the show that would say, I want to reenact my favorite scenes from WMAC Masters, but I don't have the toys. What do I do? So in that regard, yeah, every ounce of this show is a failure to nobody's real fault. You know what I'm saying? It's like trying to make a Tarzan movie. No one cares.
Yeah.
Or like a King Arthur movie. And we're like, eh. Like,
But then on the flip
Hollywood
side,
keeps trying to make it happen.
but then on the flip side, you can see why everybody involved would go with it. If it gets greenlit for a budget and it's
Sure.
something above, so every single martial artist, of course, is going to go with this. You know, of course, you're going to take the budget. I was going to say, Jeff. So here's the good news. I think there is room in the future of Nerd. I've got theories, Jeff, that we're going to go for years. We will have to revisit it because all the notes we took, you've got a hard stop. We were not able to even scratch the surface of WMAC Masters.
I think we got the surface pretty well scratched.
I don't know, Jeff. I think we could do more, but we'll see about that. Go, someone sponsor it. Jeff's got a tier open. You can sponsor it. You can do more WMAC. If someone does that, Jeff, I'm going to laugh so hard.
I think,
but anyway,
we covered a lot. We covered the majority of this. It is a fascinatingly silly timestamp of pop culture. It is one of those things where, in retrospect, we look back and we say, what were they thinking? But we're looking at it in 2024 eyes. And this is 1994, 1995, when they're conceptualizing and going through the process of doing this. Mortal Kombat, fighting games, martial arts were popular, but they didn't understand why.
Mm-hmm.
And that really comes down to it. There were clearly, after watching the first episode, you're like, oh, there's no real stakes. It's not WWF where the guys are actually getting hit and it looks real. And it's not Mortal Kombat where the violence is so wildly interesting. It's a dance show. It's a karate demo. It's martial arts demos for 22 minutes with really bad acting and interstitials.
And weird story stuff.
Yeah, and weird knowing is half the battle shit going on. So it's all not great. A lot of these people have couldn't personality weigh themselves out of a paper bag. It's just not, they're talented at one thing, and that thing is marketable in stunts. But a stunt show like this WMAC Masters would have been a great show to see live at Universal Studios or like a dinner theater kind of thing. It really does have medieval times energy to it. They just have, it would be like if medieval times had a TV show. You'd be like, I don't know if I'm watching this. I know it's not real.
But for those that grew up on us, like Logan and myself, we loved it.
I watched it too, man.
I still enjoy it now. I don't enjoy it, but I still have that nice nostalgia feeling. Jeff, you say with He-Man, He-Man's bad, but you still enjoy aspects of it. It's kind of like the same thing.
Exactly. Big shout out to Logan Trent for joining us, by the way. Definitely check out the WNBA podcast on the You Don't Even Like This Network channel. Logan, what else do you have to sort of talk about or plug while you're here?
At the Logan Trent on socials. And yeah, just check out WNBA. Got an episode with Alec Schmidt coming up, which is going to be a lot of fun. And don't commit genocide. That's my last part.
Huge.
Yeah.
Don't commit genocide and don't get into fights in subway tunnels, tram tunnels, because
especially during earthquakes.
And don't throw a ninja 32 feet onto a rail.
The third rail.
Break his spine electrically.
And live your life by the Dragon Star.
Live your life by the Dragon Star. There was so much more we could do, Jeff. We could do a sequel. But anyway,
we could have done a 6-hour podcast about this, but eventually it would be like watching the WMAC Masters. You'd be like, all right, I think I get it.
Awesome.
I will say this. I was watching this all day. My roommate would come in periodically and she'd be like, it sounds like you're watching the exact same scene that you were watching before.
There's a good chance you were. They did multiple clip shows to save money.
She is not wrong.
I was like, you're not wrong. So for me, on my end, of course, if you are listening to this for free, I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. It would mean a little bit more if you went on over to patreon.com/JeffMay and signed up for one of the tiers, including the one where you could produce this show. You could produce Jeff Has Cool Friends. You can actually get cards in the mail for any of the rookie card tiers. I also give you early access to uncensored episodes with bonus content. You could have listened to this 4 days earlier if you were on the free feed, if you were on the Patreon. I don't know why I got tongue-tied so much there. But I do all that. Jeff has cool friends on there. Ugh Fine with Kim Crawl. So much wonderful stuff to discuss at that point in time. And on top of that as well, I do all the great stuff with Adam Todd Brown, again, on the You Don't Even This network. And of course, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman on the Gamefully Unemployed Patreon, and just so much stuff. At Jeff Has Cool Cards on YouTube. Definitely watch. And then at Hey There Jeffro on the socials. Dre, you're at
Love
Nerd
it all.
Numbers.
I'm at Nerd Numbers. I hijacked your station, much like a Jaquito master. So I actually break cards at Jeff Has Cool Cards as well. So please check that out. Like, subscribe. It's some of the most fun stuff. You will often see Logan Trent in the chat. Logan, I did not have enough time this episode. We had too much WMAC to talk, but I do want to just say this. You are one of the goddamn funniest people I know. And it regularly infuriates me in the chat rooms at Gamefully Unemployed or at Jeff Has Cool Cards. Go there so you can see Logan in the chat. He is a delight. Or on Twitter, you say some of the funniest goddamn stuff. I'm breaking PG rules for that. So it was a delight to have you on the show. Find me as Nerd Numbers, sometimes jostling with Logan in the chat at Jeff Has Cool Cards. And just the tweet I wanted to shout out was just Chef's Kiss, is when Elon Musk just said he wasn't going to pay $45 million a month to Donald Trump's campaign after Kamala Harris came in. You said, wow, a deadbeat dad that's unable to keep up with monthly payments. I was like, that is one of the saddest and hilarious things I've ever heard. So yeah, definitely follow the Logan Trent on the socials for great stuff like that. And yeah, see us in the chat room. Jeff Has Cool Cards. Thank you all for listening. Live your life by the Dragon Star.
Thanks for listening to Nerd. If you want to help keep the podcast growing, it's definitely worth your while to head over to patreon.com/Jeff May. Also, you'll get early access to cool stuff. Cool stuff like videos of Jeff showing off awesome collectibles and doing pack break videos. It'd be worth your while to check out Jeff May's YouTube channels. That's right, channels. For pack breaking by Jeff and myself, head over to youtube.com/JeffHasCoolCards, where Jeff breaks packs weekly, opens stuff you send him in the mail, and sometimes even gives away cool prizes. For Jeff's podcasts, head over to youtube.com/@HeyThereJeffro. That's spelled JEFFRO. And shocker, that is also his Twitter, Instagram, and any other social media accounts as well. So follow Jeff everywhere. You can find me most places on the internet as @NerdNumbers. Also, shout out to Chris Haugen for the outro theme of Pure Magic. Thanks so much, and we'll be back with another nerdy subject soon.